What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Get the Who's podcast. The first line of this podcast, Draymond Green has been suspended for 5 games for his role in the Rudy Gobert altercation for the Warriors versus Timberwolves game. We're starting with that. Yes. This episode is going to focus a lot on the Warriors and their expectations for 2024. But considering the timing of when we recorded, which was at the beginning of the season before any regular season was played, and now where Draymond is out for 5 games, I figured I might as well bridge that gap by giving you my thoughts and covering the current status of the team. So as I said, Draymond has been suspended 5 games. Did he deserve 5 games? Yes and no. The act itself, to me, did not deserve 5 games in my estimation, considering that we've seen other physical acts in the NBA in the modern era not be that long, potentially 3 to 4 games, not 5. I think the 5 games from it is because of Draymond's past and the other altercations he's gotten into in his career with the technicals and all of that. And I think when they factored that in with what he actually did, that came out to 5 games. And I think based on that criteria, that makes sense. Do I agree with 5 games in general? No. If it was Klay Thompson that did what Draymond did, he wouldn't get 5 games. He'd probably get 2 or 3. That's just me being realistic. But because of Draymond's past, he got it. So that is what it is. Right now, this team is 6-6. In that Wolves game, by the way, they competed to the very end. Chris Paul looked like Ben Simmons at the end. Unfortunately, it's sad that that happened, but it is what it is. And we're currently in a state where we're mid. We're 6-6. We're, I believe, 6th in the Western Conference right now, but the standings change every day. We also play tonight when this podcast is coming out, so I'll be watching that on playback and YouTube. If you want to watch the game with me, tap in tonight. I'll have those links in the description as well. But ultimately, yeah, man, we're here. And for this podcast, I did it with Double D. Shout out to him, dope creator. He makes content on the NBA. He's also a Warriors fan, and we dive into the specifics of this Golden State team before the season, so there is no revisionist history. This is what we felt. So yeah, I'm just gonna quickly transition into that, but I wanted to address those things. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast. It's also on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But let's get right into the show here, people. What's good with everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Gifted Hoops podcast. We're here for episode 44. This should be the last episode of us covering basketball for all 30 teams. I gotta say, as an NBA fan, it's taken us a long time during this offseason, but we've been grinding and we've been staying consistent, and I like that approach. So appreciate everyone who made it through all of these. And even if you did it, this playlist will be available on my channel to basically go through the expectations for all teams headed into 2024. But I'm so happy to say that we're done talking about other teams. I'm finally here for my team that I support, the Golden State Warriors, and I'm here to cover it with Warriors fan and big content creator. Shout out to Double D for being on the podcast. I cannot wait to discuss Warriors hoops with you. Say hello to the people, man.
Yep. First off, thank you for having me on. We all don't know I'm Double D. I am an NBA YouTuber. Just recently hit 100,000 subscribers, so happy about that. I wouldn't say Warriors, I guess I'd say Warriors centric, although I've been trying to, kind of branch off the last year or so, but still big focus on the Warriors. So
I gotta say, I'm very happy to have you here because you have been trying to, branch out. And for this team, at least for me, oftentimes I spend a lot of time talking about many other teams. I've had many people on Twitter hear me talk and they think I'm a Lakers fan, I'm a Celtics fan, I'm a Bucks fan. It's like, no, I just rarely talk about my team.
Talk about the NBA.
Yeah. Exactly. Like I just like to talk about the NBA as a whole. But here we get a chance to fully dissect our team. Like for me, I've been a Warriors fan ever since I got introduced to the sport. The first team I watched was really Oklahoma City. My dad was not a fan of me watching sports when I was younger. He wanted me to play sports because he's from Africa. So for him, he felt like me not playing sports but talking about it would be something weird. So he just had me playing football all day long. But after I started to watch it, obviously Steph and Klay and Draymond, how they play basketball is what brought me to the team. But man, it's been a long off season, and there's a lot of things that happen with this team. The first place I want to start with, though, has to be last year. I'm going to start with the high point, okay? We won a title, okay? We beat the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals, okay? We survived Draymond Green Podgate, where a bunch of the Warriors fan community was divided. He shouldn't be doing a podcast when NBA Finals we're losing. Steph hurts himself at the end of game 3, so like it was very bad vibes, but we still win. Classic game 4 from Steph, and it brings the 4th championship to the Warrior dynasty. And we come into the offseason feeling good. I mean, a lot of people were split on some players on the team, which obviously we'll get into, but we come off of a title. A lot of the NBA is basically coming for us to start. And I'll be honest, I feel for the Kool-Aid, okay? James Wiseman in preseason, okay? Now listen, I'll be clear, Double D, right? I'm not saying I thought he was going to be this like alpha great player. I'm just thinking, can you get to 10 minutes for me in the playoff? Can you just be like a 10-minute guy who can just move around, block shots? What were your thoughts on James Wiseman in preseason last year?
No, because it's so like funny like how things turned out, because he looked great in preseason, like especially in the I forget what game that was. I forget if it was the second or third game against the Nuggets where they had that like crazy second quarter, but like he looked great. So I don't really know like what exactly happened between that and the start of the season, where you know it kind of looked like he had kind of regressed to like the player that he kind of was his rookie year. But I mean, I suppose that being out for so long, he was out for a whole, well, really a season and a half, really. But I guess like being out for that long kind of, you know, kind of had an effect on it.
It was hard for me, man, because I'll be honest, right? Wiseman, I feel bad for, because his career is very different from everyone else's. First off, he got suspended in college, so only played 3 games. He comes into the league basically during COVID. He gets hurt his first year. His second year, he misses all summer league practices, so like he doesn't have time. And like the flashes he showed in terms of his athleticism, being switchable in spots on the pick and roll on defense was cool. But ultimately, it's like he never really figured it out as a Warrior. And again, in preseason, it's like he's blocking shots, he's hitting threes, like he's working hard. This is gonna be great. And then the season starts, and it's pretty bad.
Yeah, like I feel like again, it's just like he wasn't getting the reps that he had needed to kind of, you know, develop. So, I mean, better situation for him in Detroit. So we'll see what happens.
I hope so, because he's battling for the backup big right now with Marvin Bagley over there. So we'll see how that, you know, pans itself out. But yeah, we look good in preseason, but then obviously those first 10 games, what I remember the most is the crippling losses to bad teams in the first 10. Charlotte, Orlando, Detroit, dude. I remember Jalen Suggs giving us like 37. It's like, I'm like, what is happening with this team? The on-ball defense was terrible. We could not stop a soul on defense. And the worst part about it for me, Double D, is every loss was like, see, this is because Draymond punched Jordan Poole. And like and it's like, oh my goodness, man.
Yeah. That happened.
That was a thing. I felt weird watching it, because it's like, I feel like if the video didn't come out, it probably would have been different. But like the amount of buzz around the team with that happening led to a bunch of stuff. Draymond didn't help it by literally doing a like documentary opening night. Bro, what was your reaction on that, man?
I wasn't like, because I was in the Bay, like I was there for opening night, so I didn't know that was happening, and that like that whole thing I think that we had like known that he was doing something like that, but I had, like wasn't able to watch it. I was just seeing what people were saying about it, because like I was just chilling outside of Chase Center like for like a couple hours before the game started, and so I was just sitting there just like watching like my Twitter feed and seeing people like, is he serious right now? So yeah.
Coming in, I think there were a lot of expectations for Jordan Poole, and I want to give him a lot of credit, because Poole during the championship run, I mean, he was literally good to the point where we could start him versus Denver, and he played well. I think as the playoffs progressed, it became harder for him to be as good, you know, as he played harder competition, but he definitely played a big role for us to win games. And it really felt like his contract year was coming up. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be the best Poole that we see. And instead, that was probably his most up and down season of them all. I mean, he averaged 28 points as a starter, which was great, but he just had wildly inconsistent night. He would go from scoring 41 to like 5 points, 4 fouls, terrible defense. The Jordan Poole experience was extremely tough, I would say, Double D.
Yeah. And I think that because I made a video back in March that kind of blew up, and people like thought I was a Jordan Poole hater or something. Like my whole thing about that was just I was just basically pointing out the fact that it was the inconsistency that was kind of hurting the team, because they didn't really know what to do with him. And I feel like there was a quote, I'm pretty sure, like from like other like executives, where it was like they don't know what to do with him, and I feel like I think that was the exact quote. So like it was just damn, man.
He was extremely inconsistent, and what made it so tough for me is that Poole, when he's playing at his best, he's getting to the rim. He was the only other guy on the team outside of maybe Andrew Wiggins sometimes that could get to the free throw line and shoot like 10 free throws. And as an undersized team, we needed him to do that. But I feel like a lot of times he would just take these tougher threes first instead of just doing what he does best, because his speed is legit. He was getting by people, but the second unit he was a part of wasn't great, and he couldn't elevate that unit. So we struggled tremendously. It got to a point where they chose to stagger Steph and Draymond so Draymond could play more to elevate the bench. And it was just an extremely up and down season. I think Poole is a good player. I just think his floor as a player was so low last year. Like, how do you go from like this guy that subs in for Draymond in the finals in the last like 5 minutes of a crucial must-win game to unplayable in the playoffs this year? Like, it was a very tough situation for him, for real.
Like, I feel like it was a situation where, because he had a breakout season, then teams didn't really know what to do with him. And so he was just kind of cooking everybody. And also, like, it looks like the game just kind of came to him a little bit easier because of that. And then you come into, you know, the next season, everybody, well, not everybody, but, you know, a lot of teams kind of have a better scheme for him in place. And since the only thing that he really provided at that point was his scoring, then if you're able to shut that down, then he can't really provide anything else outside of that. So it becomes a pretty big liability pretty fast.
Especially when like you on defense with Steph and Clay is just so like just so bad. Like, it felt like sometimes he was making it harder on himself on purpose, because it's like, I know you're a better defender than this, and he's just getting blown by just consistently over and over. Like that Memphis series, Ja just said every play, high pick and roll, switch, and that just can't work, especially if you're not really making shots, you're not really playmaking, and you're just taking tougher shots. Again, I think his ceiling as a player can be high, but the floors are so low. And ultimately, if you want to win, you need to have a high enough floor and a high enough ceiling. And he just wasn't giving that to us, especially when, again, we're a undersized team. Like, bringing Looney out and starting Jordan Poole is a full bet on the play of the starters to be good enough to where you don't have to be big because we can space you out and create really good offense. And we really couldn't do that.
Yeah. Hey, oh man, Kevon Looney was really our tallest player last year.
Yes. It's not a troll. Yes.
And I feel like the thinking when they kind of came into the season is that we have guys that play taller than they are, like Kuminga, like Draymond Green, but then you have Kuminga and he barely even plays. So it's just like your whole plan is just kind of, you just self-sabotage your whole plan.
I think the Kuminga thing was weird too, because during the season, when Steph got hurt, he got more opportunity to play and he played well. You know what I'm saying? But didn't get any tick in the playoffs at all. Like just none.
Kuminga, Moody, another name that should have played more last season that's, you know, probably going to play more this year.
Bro, we played Anthony Lamb over Moody, bro. Real shit. We played Anthony Lamb over Moody.
We were at a point where we were playing Anthony Lamb's 25 minutes.
Those are some dark days, man. I'm trying to tell you, because I knew coming in, like, Anthony Lamb is gonna barely get any minutes in the playoffs. I know this. So to not play Moody or Kuminga to where they could develop through their mistakes during the regular season, and playing Anthony Lamb, who was also an inconsistent player. If he's not making shots, he also wasn't that great. I just didn't see the point of it. And like, it made me so mad because they wouldn't play Kuminga. He played Moody, and Moody actually produced for us and was pretty good in the playoffs. And you would think, especially versus LA, which I promise we'll get to all the playoffs and all that, but the athleticism that Kuminga provided, he's probably the most athletic player on the team outside of Andrew Wiggins. And obviously last year, Andrew Wiggins only played 37 games. Normally he plays 70. So it was a very different vibe for us. And that's why Kuminga to me was such a key piece, and is a key piece now, because he's the only other guy that could take the ball from the 3-point line and get to the paint in the half court in transition. So using that as a answer to not having the size, quote unquote, is huge. And so far in preseason, obviously, like he's been getting to the free throw line. He's giving more effort in boxing out on the glass, and he's just running up and down the court way more. We need that type of skill set. And it would have been nice if I could say, hey, you know what? Kuminga at least has some playoff experience. He doesn't. So it's like all this shit can really mean nothing. He gets into the playoffs and it's the same thing. I hope not, but that's where I'm at with him.
I feel like he is going to kind of take that leap. Obviously, we need to still see what he's going to look like in the playoffs, but I feel like he's going to be better prepared, because it's not like he hasn't played in the playoffs like at all. He played like he got some minutes in the first season when they won the title, but not as many like towards the conference finals, all that. But I feel like it's good. It's just going to be like a learning curve in a way.
Yeah, I think with Kuminga, it's going to take some time for him to like fully realize things. But again, that's what another individual on this team, and I'm going to name his name after we fully introduce that segment, but that's what I think this other person could help Kuminga with. I do have to bring this part up here, though. I'm not going to lie, Double D. When I sat there, I got a call, okay? I was at work. My friend Derek, shout out to you. I've had you on the podcast before, but this was very foul of you. I'm at work, right? Vulnerable. Derek calls me. I haven't checked Twitter. I'm just locked in. Like, okay, I want to get off work right as early as possible. This man calls me and tells me that we traded Jordan Poole for Chris Paul. My first reaction is to laugh, because I know you trolling me. Like, we ain't really do that for real. Like, that's not the case. And like, I saw reports saying that the Warriors were interested in Chris Paul, but I'm thinking that's a smoke screen. Like, we're not really interested. It's just saying, oh yeah, they're interested. And then I look at what we traded, and we traded Poole and a pick to get Chris Paul.
And PBJ.
And we traded PBJ, who I thought had some promise last year, and maybe he was gonna gone. Like that stuff happened, and like I pulled over immediately. Okay, and I had a tweet. Now I don't delete tweets, so that tweet's gonna be up there. It is what it is. But I literally said the season is cooked, and I said it immediately because it's like, so our answer to not having the size versus these other teams in the playoffs is to get Chris Paul, who is nearly 40 years old, gets injured every year in the playoffs, and doesn't really provide much size. I also thought that Chris Paul and Draymond were extremely redundant together because it's like they're both going to get treated like non-spacers, and they need the ball in their hands to be productive offensively. Draymond less so because he can obviously set off-ball screens. But for Chris Paul, he's not going to bring you that premium value defensively. So it's better to maximize Chris with the ball in his hands. And I'm like, wait a minute. So Chris Paul, Steph, and Clay defensively, like I want to see these lineups? No. And I was tight. I was very tight. But I do think Chris Paul for the second unit, as I said earlier, he is going to help this team, I think, because we struggle a lot with dumb turnovers. And the starters can get away with it because it's Steph and it's Clay. Like, we can match it offensively. But when the bench is also turning the ball over and they don't have like a normal ball handler to like have an understanding of what to get to, it's an issue. I think Chris Paul can help make life easier for Kuminga, Moody, and all of the other players on the team. But it took me a very long time to like bite that bullet and just accept this. Because me personally, I'm not a Chris Paul fan. I'll just be honest. I respect him as a player, all this and all that. But seeing that trade happen, I just did not know how to react. How about you?
Oh, man. Nah, I remember when I first saw the... Because I didn't have tweet notifications on yet because free agency hadn't started yet. So, like, I was just scrolling down the timeline. I see, like, what I thought was a Woj just account say that they were trading for Chris Paul. I was like, oh, okay. I got. But then I see Shams. Oh, man. I still can't believe. But, I remember I pulled out the old Stephen A. quote, his very first move as the executive, because that was I think that was like a couple weeks after we had employed Mike Dunleavy, and that was also people don't really like to talk about this. That was also like 2 days after he had said that Jordan Poole is staying here for
I forgot about that. He did say, he was like, Jordan Poole not going nowhere, and then 2 days later shipped off for Chris Paul.
Yeah. Obviously did not like it at first. Well, at first I thought we were gonna be flipping him for something else. But then they had said that, no, we're excited to have him here. I was like, oh, this is real. Like, you're actually doing this. And that kind of, oh man, I still remember, like, I was like, what? Because it's like, I was thinking about mainly like the contract situation and also just the fact that he is 38 years old. But as I kind of like, as the offseason kind of went on, I was like, you know, maybe this could work out. I kind of see what they're trying to do, like you said, with the turnover problems, and you know, kind of having someone better and more, I guess, equipped to run that second unit, because Jordan Poole at this point is a starter. And so I guess it doesn't really make that much sense to have him stay here when, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to start Jordan Poole just the whole season? Like, you're probably not going to do that. So from that perspective, like I kind of started to see like what they were kind of thinking with that. And then also, you know, bring in Dario Saric, who is a past teammate of his, who, you know, kind of understands him, knows how to play with him. And then Draymond's injury happens, and so we kind of are put into a situation where we kind of start Chris Paul. And the thing to think about that is that he did look better than I thought he was going to in that unit. Obviously the turnovers uncharacteristically high for him. There were games where he was having like 4 or 5 turnovers in preseason, especially like when he was playing a lot more with the starting unit. But as preseason kind of went on, he started to kind of get more situated with like the bench unit, or kind of had started to play more minutes with that unit. I think that this definitely could work out better than I thought. But obviously we'll have to wait and see. Draymond, is he back opening night? I can't remember.
They said he's not confirmed. I believe he started 5-on-5 practice, so he might be back. It's looking like it's trending in that direction, but it's not all the way confirmed just yet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of kind of waiting and seeing at this point. Although I am more on board than I was a couple months ago. So
yeah, it took me a while to just accept it, but then once basketball was back in front of me, I could see stylistically where he fits. In his first game, he surprised me a lot with the quick passing. Like, there were some plays where Steph would give him the ball, and then he would instantly give it either right back to Steph or to Clay. In his first game, there's a specific pass where he gets the ball on the baseline and he throws a quick rifle pass to Clay, who's like right at the basket. And Clay was so surprised by it, he didn't shoot it immediately, and then he shot it and he missed, right? But just seeing him be willing to give up the ball quicker, I'm like, okay. And I saw him setting some screens, and I'm like, the last thing I expected was a 38-year-old Chris Paul to be setting off-ball screens just to set them. And I'm like, okay, if he's doing that, that works for us pretty well.
Yeah, I feel like that was the thing that kind of like got me more on board and kind of like led to more acceptance of the situation, because it's like I didn't think that he would be like that what's the word, like that in tune with the motion as fast as he was. Like you kind of expected there to be like a sort of like an adjustment to like the way that they play, but he looked to kind of fit right in. And you might like expect that to a certain extent with a high IQ player like him, but I don't think I expected it to be that fast. Because it was
I didn't think he was going to be that. Really. Yeah, I didn't think he was going to be that portable. Like, he came in and fit well. Defensively, we're going to still have issues, but I liked what Chris Paul was doing too, with how he would catch the ball and instantly will float into a Looney pick and roll quickly. And I keep saying, just, man, I love Looney so much. Like he does great in his role, but dude can't get off the floor. And it's like, if we could have a more explosive lob threat, which maybe is Trace. I love Trace, but it's hard for bigs to be very productive in their first year. Like there's so much that they have to know how to do. But him playing many years in college seems to have, equipped him to be able to do that. He looked great. Yeah, he looked good, right? He looked
especially good against Sabonis. I was not expecting him to be playing Sabonis like that. Like he was playing great defense.
Dude, he had a play versus the Spurs where he's facing the perimeter like this, right? And then he does like a 180 spin to block a shot in the paint. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, we just don't have athleticism like that on defense.
Yeah. Like, and going back to Chris Paul, like the thing, I think like the craziest part was like I can't remember, it was the first or second play. Chris Paul gets a screen and he dribbles into his patented mid-range. First shot is a mid-range, and I'm like, you know what? I like that. I like seeing that, because you could already see like in the first preseason games, like there's already obviously or like not as much of a emphasis on 3-point shooting. Like they're still shooting a lot, but not nearly as many as last season. Not like the 50 or 55 that they were taking in some games. So definitely could help to have a bigger variance and just shot selection overall than just 3-pointer or layup or floater.
Yeah, and I got to give Chris Paul credit too, because I think the thing I was most impressed with had to be the Kings game that was super competitive, because they were blowing us out by a lot. And then in the fourth quarter, Chris Paul had the ball in his hands.
Yep.
But he was getting the ball at Steph.
Dunks.
Like, I was impressed with that, but like the way that he found a way to get Steph the ball, because it felt like last year, a lot of times in the fourth quarter, we're like, what is this team doing? Like why is Steph not getting the ball? What's happening? Chris Paul made it a point of emphasis to get him the ball, and he was making great decisions. And I didn't think about this before the trade happened, but now I'm starting to think that having Chris Paul as that secondary ball handler who can make decisions and be trusted to make decisions helps Steph a lot, because now Steph doesn't have to do everything. Like in the Lakers series, he was literally creating offense every single possession, high pick and rolls with GP, Green, like he had to do everything. So Chris Paul being there can really emphasize Steph on being the flat out scoring threat he really is, I think.
Oh my God. Nah, the amount of just stuff that he was needing to do last season, like he was doing it. And I feel like that's like kind of going to be the thing that kind of gets lost, is just how he was playing. Because it's like, I don't think that I've ever seen him just be able to get such simple offense like that easily as he was doing the entire year. But it wasn't resulting in wins. Like Steph never gets triple doubles. Like that's the kind of thing that we were, or kind of the thing that I was thinking about. He had, I think, 2 triple doubles last season, one in the regular season, one in the playoffs. We lost both of those games. And so it's just like, what else can he really do at that point? Like you said before, having Chris Paul there as the secondary ball handler is definitely a way different dynamic than having Jordan Poole as secondary dynamic. Because I feel like, yeah, you're concerned about Jordan Poole, but only to an extent. Like Chris Paul is just a much smarter player at this point in his career. Like, and so I feel like that is going to benefit them more than just having someone that can just go out there and put the ball in the hoop, And like I think that just knows what, like, everything that's going on,
I think that right there, what you just said, I think that was the Warriors' mindset this offseason, to just get more guys who had high IQ and could fit in the system. Dario is another example of that. Like this guy that can shoot threes at a high level, understands where to position himself in any pick and pop action, and a guy that can just catch the ball, attack closeouts, and pass. I mean, he's been very impressive all preseason.
Some of his like bounce passes have been
nice.
Like, yeah, it's like, that's Andrew Bogut, that's Bielitsa, and so I feel like that is going to be a positive.
Yeah,
I feel like he can sort of fill that void that Bielitsa left.
Listen, that's exactly what I said, right? Bielitsa. I view Dario Saric as basically Bielitsa part 2, but way more mobile, a bit better with the size defensively in spots, and also the way that he just consistently attacks downhill off a closer. Like, I'm like, damn, did Dario just get an and one off the catch? Like,
yeah,
okay,
like, yeah, like that's like kind of an advantage that I could definitely see, because it's just, you're not really used to something like that. Like
no.
A big attacking downhill off of like a handoff or something.
And I feel like teams
like a naked handoff or something along those lines.
Yeah, I feel like teams didn't like greatly respect Bielitsa's 3 like that, even though he could shoot. I'm seeing teams look at Dario like, damn, do we like Anthony Davis was like, okay, do I cover this or do I get out to Dario? Like, he's a respected shooter, which changes the floor a lot. Having more guys with size who can shoot helps any lineup, especially when you have Kuminga, who's going to be athletic and get out in transition with Dario. Like, that just fits so well.
Yeah. Like, and it is pretty interesting that like people didn't, I feel like, respect, like you said, Bielisa's three as much as Dario's, because they shoot around the same percentage, but Dario just has more gravity. You know, didn't want to say the word, but I said it.
That's crazy, Double D. Are you saying you don't believe in gravity?
Nah, man. I just you know, like the stigma surrounded with the like, oh, people that say gravity, you know.
There is a gravity stigma all over Twitter, so that's definitely fair. I myself am a believer in gravity. I'll put that on the record, but people do be overdoing it with the gravity stuff.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah. I think what I liked as well, and this guy surprised me. I thought he would be good, but I thought it would take more time. Brandon has been extremely impressive in terms of being a decision maker. He almost had a triple-double in preseason with no turnovers.
Like, he's been really aggressive, like attacking downhill.
Yep.
Great finishing around the rim. Did not expect that. And also just, you know, being a great playmaker in like the minutes that he is like out there with, you know, like the second unit or the third unit might as well be in preseason. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if he's going to get minutes or not, or like how many minutes he's going to get, but definitely could be someone to go to in like a blowout or, you know, something like that, just to kind of get reps.
I just think the passing that he does, like, it was blowing my mind how young he is playing in like crucial minutes in the preseason, how he's just finding shooters, passing the right way. And they pass him the ball many times where there's like 5 seconds left and I'm like, okay, so we're going to get like a really bad shot. And he was finding extra last minute plays where like, oh, we scored, or
yeah,
we didn't score, but that's a great possession. Like, he had a really nice feel for that. And you don't see that often from younger guards who have never played before.
Yeah. And I feel like it's going to be like, because I remember like how pissed a lot of fans were when we picked him on draft night.
They were tight.
Yeah. And so I feel like it's going to be a similar situation to someone like Kuminga, who I feel like also kind of got some hate from our fan base on draft night, where we didn't really kind of see like how he would fit in this system. But now that we see it, we're like, oh, okay, he can do this.
Yeah, people didn't like Kuminga on draft night. There were a lot of people saying he's a dumb basketball player. I remember these things.
Yeah.
I also remember people trying to trade Kuminga for.
Yeah, we were more excited about the Moody pick because he fell to 14.
People were way more excited about the Moody pick. This is true. Yeah. This is very true. But now I just feel like with these two guys, I feel like this season for me, right? I think we have a chance to win. I'm not going to say we don't have a chance, but I feel like this is a transitional period where you're trying to get more from your younger guys. You're trying to, you know, establish a better direction for Warriors basketball, but you're also just trying to, you know, see how many games you can win. I think this team has a higher floor than last year. I think the ceiling is where my question comes into place, because if Kuminga takes that leap in terms of being that guy that can consistently play 25 minutes, getting downhill, being one of the better wing defenders on our team, we now have Andrew Wiggins, Draymond, and Kuminga who can all play that role. That changes the ceiling, but we have to see it. So I'm not quite sure where we are with that. I like him a lot, but again, seeing how the floor is bent in the playoffs, that's what's going to matter. The decision making and the burst of the basket. Because last year we shot a ton of threes in the playoffs. They were not going in. And it looked like we had no athleticism to provide a counter when our shots weren't falling. So that's what I'm looking at. And I think GP, by the way, is huge for us because we started out with poor defense. Once we got GP2, our perimeter defense was much better, even though we were still shit for every road game. I think this year's going to be different having him at the very beginning.
Yeah, that road. I still have no idea. I know that we like wrote it down on the topics bullet points, but I still have no idea what that even was. Like no. Like that's so out of the ordinary. Like that just doesn't happen, especially for a team that won. Actually, no, not even just for a team that won the title. That doesn't happen, period. Like you don't have one of the best home records in the league and then one of the worst road record.
No team has ever had that night and day record. We were like 9 games won on the road and we were dominant at home. They were literally like a top 6, I believe, offense and defense at home. A night and day team. And then on the road, we're like the 26th defense, I think. Like it was really bad.
Yeah, like it was just like, oh man. And then just the fact that a lot of those road games were lost like in the last 10 minutes, 5 minutes, you know.
I will never forget what the Nets did to us, man. We got obliterated. We lost by like 60 points versus the Nets on the road.
No, you know what's crazy is that I wasn't even really watching that. I was on playback with Dom and Kobe around that time, and I forget what game we were watching, but I just had the game up on my second monitor. Every time I look back, okay, Kevin Durant hits another 3. All right. Oh, okay, Kyrie. All right. We're down 35 now. Okay.
It just kept going up.
They scored like 90 points in the first half, right?
90
Something
points
like
in the
that.
first half, bro. 90. It was a tough. And like, I think what contributed to us not being so good on the road is it felt like the Warriors didn't care. And I don't mean that from like a basketball sense, but it's like we had so many games where it's like, okay, we'll just sit everybody and just lose. Like, that's fine. We'll be okay. And it's like
the 2 Pelicans games.
Yo, we sat everyone and lost considerably. And it didn't get better as our season progressed. I remember at the very end, it literally came down to us being 1 game ahead to not fall to the play-in. I'll never forget, at full strength, we played Denver without Jokic late in the season, went to Denver and lost. Like, that's how bad it was.
Yep. Oh man.
I know, but
I feel like it was just because repeating is difficult. Like we all know that, but I feel like it was just arrogance at that point because they felt like they could just we'll just take this night off, and then by you get to around December, you're like, oh shit, we're actually not that good.
Yes.
But then, you know, by that time you're already like you've already built the habits that you've built, and so it's kind of hard to kind of get your like your feet back at that point, especially now when you have Steph out, and then obviously Poole and Clay kept the season alive during that time, but damn.
It was very tough, man. I vividly remember watching these games, praying that, okay, this man Jermichael Green is hooping this game. Can we win this game, please? I remember one game Jermichael had 12 rebounds. I'm like, let's go. Let's just win the game. We need it. And
man, Jermichael
Green was a experience last year, but I think, bro, for me
the worst experience.
Oh no, there were some worse people, but I think for me, the worst road loss we had, okay? I'm looking dead in the camera when I said it because I vividly remember this game. No, worse than that. On the road,
Boston?
No Steph Curry versus Utah. I see. Look. Hey, listen. If you're listening to this podcast or audio, look at Double D's face on the visual side of things. You know what that Utah loss was about. I know you remember that game. I know you do. We were up with 5 points. It was like 30 seconds left, and we choked and lost.
No, the thing about that was that we were up by like 2 possessions with a minute left. And we kept getting offensive rebounds, and they kept shooting threes.
They just kept shooting three. And then the turnover, which led to the fast break for them to score it, to seal the game, basically, too.
Yeah. And now, like, when that happened, first there was the Clay falling asleep on the
that was bad.
The kick out to the corner three. But yeah, that turnover. I still remember, I was like, did that really just, like, did I actually just watch that happen? Like, did we actually just lose that game?
I literally threw my phone. I was sitting here watching the game like, all right, this is great. The game is over. Like, we got it. Just a minute. Just got to hold it down for a minute. And within a span of 2 possessions, they hit threes, they leak out, and the Poole turnover. I was like, there's no way we just lost this game. And it's at a point where, like, the Western Conference is like, you lose one game and you drop from like 2 to like 9. Like, literally the Pelicans were like the number 1 seed, right? They lose like 13 straight and they drop from 1 to like 14, right? Like, that's how competitive the conference was. Yeah.
There were a lot of teams as the 1 seed last season, like,
yes,
considerable way into like 10-15 games into the season that didn't even make the playoffs. Like the Blazers were the 1 seed at one point. The Jazz
the Jazz was cooking at the start of the season. Yeah,
Larry Markkinen looked like Larry Bird. And then who else? The Pelicans. Yeah,
dominant. And then they just lost 13 games straight. And there was no Zion, so it was a wrap for that. Like, I just couldn't believe how much trolling was going on with the lineups and the decision making. It's like, bro, we can't afford to be losing to Utah when we're up with 30 seconds left in the game.
Yeah, I feel like it was a situation where they were like, okay, we did this last season and we won the title, so maybe we can try to like figure something out. But the thing about that is that you were like 18-2 at one point, and you were, dicking around with Chris Chiozza minutes and
oh my god,
things like that.
Oh my god, the tattooed Steph Curry, Chris Chiozza, man. I remember this.
Yeah, evil Steph.
Evil
Did
Steph.
Didn't want to shoot anything. But yeah, like when you're 20 games over 500, you can do that. But when you're struggling to stay out of the play-in bracket,
you cannot do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe and I pray that this team has more urgency for the regular season than before. I think that Clay, a year removed, is going to be able to play more games this year. And I hope that Clay turns into a good version of contract year Clay and not, I need this max, so I'm shooting every shot I get Clay. We'll see how that, pans itself out. But I remember we came into the season out of shape, basically, outside of Steph and I think Jordan Poole. And it's like Clay was probably the worst version of himself for like 2 months. And then as soon as Steph goes down, he starts to have like his best volume 3-point shooting season ever. Like, just crazy shots. The 50 points versus Portland, where like he literally is ISOing for the game.
Yeah, he's like is ISO step back 3.
Yeah, step back 3. Down.
Yeah, the 2 games against OKC where he hit like 10 threes and like 12 threes.
Yep.
He had 12 threes in multiple games last year, right?
I think he had 12 threes versus the Rockets too.
No, I think he had 10 that game.
Oh, 10, okay.
Yeah. I think both the OKC games he had 12.
Yeah, look that up for me because
something like that.
Yeah. He was bombing OKC up though. I remember those games. He just left nothing. He was just killing OKC.
Oh no, he did. Yeah, he did hit 12 threes against Houston. I thought you meant the game in Houston.
No.
The game in Houston, he hit 10, and then
he was cooking Houston repeatedly, bro. I'm telling you.
The Atlanta game, 21 for 39.
I remember that
shots, 39 shots for 54 points.
I remember that game. I remember that game because we needed that game. We needed that game so badly, bro. That was a must-win game for us, man.
That was the double overtime game, right?
Yep.
Looney won with the tap, yeah.
Bro, the tip in from Looney, yes. I forgot about that. Nah. Yeah, Clay was very interesting because, again, if you look at his entire season, again, he started out shooting like insanely bad for the first 2 months. Like it was, bro. I remember people were like, yo, start Jordan Poole because this not making no sense.
Yeah.
And then he just like lights the league on fire, plays like an all NBA player based on his shot making. And he finishes out the year shooting his best on volume for his career. And now it's like, okay, now Klay Thompson, you've had more time to rest. I pray that you can transition into being a neutral to at least slight positive defender, and we'll see where that takes us. But I remember the Lakers series, and it's like no mobility was there. You're missing every single shot, unfortunately. Bron is literally
taking like wild threes.
Wild threes. And it gets so bad to the point where LeBron is pump faking at a Clay shot and is like, I'm really going to Steph. I'm gonna leave you. I'm gonna let you shoot. And I've never seen that happen to Clay before.
Yeah. Like it was. Oh man, I still remember. Like, do you remember the game 4 shot where we still the Lonnie Walker game?
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
We still had a chance to win. Clay took those like 2 back-to-back shots. Steve Kerr's in the back.
like this. Yeah,
like
he had his hands up. Like
it was like, I think the game was still like a 1-point game at that point with like a minute and a half left. I was like, we lost. We just lost.
Yes, it was, bro. It was over. And like, oh my goodness, the Lonnie Walker game. That's really bad memories, bro.
Yeah, man.
Oh God, Lonnie got. Man. Didn't he outscore like the whole Warriors team by himself in the fourth?
I don't think he outscored the team, but he had like 15 points in the fourth quarter, and they were like his only 15 points
of the game. He scored all of it in the fourth, and like it kills me because it's like, okay, right? Like I will be the Warriors fan that gives the Lakers credit. Okay, they had more size, free throws, fine, right? Fine. But the fact that people will not acknowledge that like the series deciding game where we go down 3-1 is literally decided by Lonnie Walker, and you just think that on paper they're supposed to like beat us in 5 or whatever. Like Lonnie Walker decided our season, bro. That's crazy. That's crazy to say.
Yeah. And it was so it was 15-17. We scored 17.
15 he scored 17.
He scored 15. We scored 17. Let me see what this. Okay, so Steph had 10 of the 17. Moses Moody had 2. Andrew Wiggins had 2. Klay Thompson had 3. And then Draymond and GP2 didn't take a shot. So
10 of the 17, bro. 10.
Yeah. 4 for 11. God, he took 11 of the 17 shots.
Yeah.
That is insane.
It was a tough series, man. And I kept saying at the start, like, listen, we're tired from the King series. Kuminga has not played high minutes in the playoffs. Just see what he could do for like 4 minutes. And I got my answer, but it was in a closeout game when we already lost and we're getting blown out by like 15 points. Like I just...
Oh, that was the game. Oh, Jordan Poole didn't score. That was that game.
Oh, Jordan Poole going scoreless in the playoffs too. Yeah. I forgot about that too.
0 for 4 in 10 minutes. Steph 12 for 3. He took 30 shots.
He took 30 shots. Yes. That's where the offense was.
That was the triple double game. 31 points, 10 rebounds, 14 assists, 3 steals.
In a loss. Man.
Yeah.
I just don't think they had another reliable ball handler to make decisions, because remember, Poole was unplayable in the playoffs. So it's like outside of Steph, it's Draymond, and that's not going anywhere.
And he can't. Yeah, Anthony Davis can play so far off of him.
So far off crazy. Of him. Yeah. So I think that Chris Paul to close makes sense. It's just I just don't like the defense. But to be fair, his decision making should balance it out.
You're gonna get better shots than you were getting last season at the end of the games.
I just want to see what it looks like with Draymond, because again, we haven't seen Draymond and Chris Paul play together. I've heard some people say that they want to see Chris Paul, Draymond 2-man game with Steph and Clay off the ball. But my thing is, why do you have to guard that pick and roll? Like, I think, I'm not afraid of Chris Paul. Like, listen, I'm such a Chris Paul hater. I vividly remember Chris Paul took 26 shots at the basket last year, total, for the entire season. He took, listen, go on Cleaning the Glass if you got that. Look at his shot chart. Okay. I'm pretty sure he took 26 shots at the basket for the regular season. I'm so serious.
All right. That is.
What does it say?
So
what does it
crazy. Say? There's nothing at the rim. Yeah.
Okay. So 26 shots at the rim.
7th percentile is so crazy.
Like, that's what it was. So like, imagine me, right? Knowing these numbers and seeing Chris Paul on the team. So the idea that Chris Paul and Draymond need to do pick and rolls, like, I don't like the sound of that. I think you're better equipped if you have Draymond doing off-ball screens and really having Chris and Steph on the ball more. Draymond can get the ball and have that role as a diver, you know?
Yeah, you're better off having like Chris Paul as a ball handler and Draymond running some sort of action with Steph or Clay off ball.
100%.
Than trying to run pick and rolls with Stephen or Chris Paul and Draymond Green.
People just say that because, it's fine because you got Steph and Clay, and if these two are on paper non-spacers, just run the 2-man game and it's going to be great. Like, it's not how basketball works, no. You know? Yeah. But I want to ask you now.
That is crazy.
I don't lie about my stats, never. It was crazy. And I want to ask you this. So now that we've seen preseason, we have an idea what the team is going to be. We pretty much talked over every key signing that we've had so far. What are your expectations of Golden State this year? Where do you think they're going to seed? Obviously, roughly. And in terms of a title contender, are they that? What are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because it's not actually something that I've really thought about that much this offseason. Like, I'm just seeing what happens at this point. But obviously, I think that they're going to be better this season than they were last season, or at least at the very least more consistent. Obviously, Chris Paul is going to help a lot with that. Players like Dario Saric, Trace Jackson-Davis, if he does eventually get minutes. Jonathan Kuminga is going to probably be taking that next step, and he's also just going to be playing. He's not going to have the Anthony Lamb wall in front of him. But so I feel like at the very least they're going to be more consistent, and I feel like that will be more important come playoff time, because obviously, like, they're going to make the playoffs, but it's just a question of where they're going to end up. I still don't really know what the answer to that is, because you have to think about just the teams that they're going to be playing. The Suns are going to be dangerous. The Lakers are still pretty dangerous. The Nuggets, obviously. The Pelicans. Like, you have just a bunch of teams to worry about. So it's going to be interesting. Although I do think that they are going to get off to a better start than they did last season, because now I feel like the urgency is there, and it really wasn't last season. You're still kind of on that championship hangover, and like I said before, the arrogancy, just we can take this night off.
Yeah, you hope that this team comes in with a renewed sense of hunger, because again, they also haven't been out in the playoffs that early for some time, and I think a lot of the members of the team
2014.
Since 2014, I feel like a lot of them are taking that to heart, and I feel like this team is kind of hard to rank because of what they've done, but also what just happened. And like, if Steph gets hurt, Chris Paul's durability, Yeah, like all of these things come together and it makes people unsure of where they're going to rank. For me, I think they're going to be like the 5th or 6th spot. And I'll say that because if I'm projecting injuries and overall level of play with the size and all that, I think this team can peak as like a 3rd or 4th seed. I think that's realistic if everything goes right based on how they play basketball. I get that they might not have like the size or like the length of other teams, but the consistency of how they play and the continuity and chemistry that they already have, I think that's going to make them beat other teams, even if they might not have the physical attributes that you would like. And honestly, I think if they're in that range, at that point, it all becomes about matchups, because contrary to popular belief, I think in terms of Denver, I think Denver is a very potent team, but I think Steph is the perfect guard to really like exploit Denver's weakness defensively. Obviously, Denver has more size, I agree, but in terms of like matching up, that's what matters the most in the playoffs, how you match up. And there's so many teams in the West that match up well or don't at all with other teams. For instance, people hate on the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I get it, but they match up well with Denver and the Lakers better than people would think. And I think that's why seeding to me matters so much, because based on where we are, that can choose how far this team gets in the postseason.
Yeah. I feel like it is definitely an interesting case, because the like sometimes the deciding factor is the matchups and what type of team you're going up against. Like, I feel like the Warriors definitely are one of the better teams equipped to deal with the Nuggets, but just in the NBA. But obviously you just have to wait and see kind of what the team is going to look like, what, you know, those dudes like Chris Paul are going to look like. Obviously, having Andrew Wiggins just in the lineup for hopefully the whole
more than 37 games, yeah.
I mean, not really blaming him for it, but just, you know, having him out there.
Right. And like he
like other people.
Like other people is crazy. He normally plays more games, right? So like prorating that for a whole season, if he does that, our defense, especially having GP2 to start earlier, should be better than last year by the end of the season. Gonna be some rough spots, of course, hey.
Oh my god! Remember the start that Andrew Wiggins was having last year before like the
he was on fire. He was on fire. He was on fire last year. Bro.
His last game before that injury, he hit like 9 threes and had like 35 points.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, we were seeing some great stuff out of him, but I agree with you, man. Those are the expectations for this team. At a certain point, though, like I'm tired of having to like mentally think about all of these 12 playoff teams and which teams are gonna make the playoffs or not. I'm just happy that basketball is officially here today for us to like watch and look at. So I'm excited about that.
I have things to talk about.
I have things to talk about now. I don't have to spend my off season breaking down all 30, which I like doing that. It was fun for me to do that, but it's just easier to have basketball in front of you. Like I get a chance to see what happens with James Harden trade. Is it going to happen or not? How good are the Clippers going to be? How good are the Wolves going to be? Right? Like, these things I get a chance to finally get an answer to. So I'm hyped, man. I really am.
I cannot wait to see the Celtics.
I can't wait for the Celtics either, bro.
The Celtics or the Bucks. I mean, I feel like with the Bucks, we kind of that's going to be so crazy. Like, I feel like with the Bucks, we already kind of know what we're getting. Like, we're going to get a lot of Dame and Giannis actions, a lot of Dame and Chris Middleton actions.
Yep.
So I feel like that's just going to be crazy to see, like, offensively. The Celtics, Drew Holiday just being there is going to be so
Drew and Derek
crazy.
White as a backcourt defensively. Yeah.
Because I feel like, and I talked about with this in the video I made a couple of weeks ago about the Drew Holiday trade. I feel like the thing that a lot of people are worried about with Drew Holiday is his playoff performance, which kind of, you know, goes under the radar at times. But the thing to think about is that he's not even really going to be having that much offensive responsibility anymore with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. or just in terms of like scoring, and even Porzingis to an extent, they're all going to be looked at as like the 1, 2, and 3 in terms of just like scoring options. And so he's mainly like his main job in a playoff setting is going to be the playmaking and the defense. And then also if they do meet the Bucks in the playoffs, he's matching up against Dame again. And we know what happened last time that happened. So
we sure do. Yeah, like I mean, these teams are going to be fun. Quick point before I wrap on the Celtics. I just like the floor of that team offensively. I feel like you have to respect everyone, and Porzingis shoots 40 from 3, but also was the most efficient post-up option in the league outside of Jokic, which is crazy to say. And you're now telling me that he's in a much better system where he was rolling and dunking the ball in preseason. Like I just
like they ran a lineup. I feel like I talked about this, or I tweeted about it. They ran a lineup in one of the games. And it was like right when I had like started watching, it was like the first quarter. They were running a lineup of Drew Holiday, Sam Hauser, Jaylen, or I think it was Jaylen Brown. I forget. No, it was Jason Tatum at the 3, Al Horford at the 4, and Porzingis at the 5.
They can do that.
So
too?
It was yeah. I was like, the shortest player here is Drew Holiday, and he's 6'5" and a defensive menace. There's
a legitimate argument that with Derek White, Tatum, Porzingis, and Jaylen Brown, your weakest defender in that lineup is Jaylen Brown. And like, if your weakest defender is Jaylen Brown, even though he can be flawed off ball sometimes, that is a crazy thing to be able to say. Oh,
also with another thing about Drew Holiday that I forgot to say in my video about the Celtics. You take the ball out of Jaylen Brown's hands more. So that is
he's much better as an off-ball player. Much better, So
yeah.
Guy
making $60 million a year but can't go left. But that's a conversation for another day.
Hey, Double D, I gotta say, that's a crazy final sentence to have on the podcast. I'm gonna put an echo on that for the clips when this comes out, but I appreciate you so much. Again, as an NBA content creator, you've been doing it for some time now. I'm still new to the game, so I appreciate you being down to sit here and talk with me for literally an hour and 7 minutes. I didn't think that this would go on like this, but great conversations. Definitely want to keep in touch with you to see how this team progresses, but the Boston Celtics 100%. That is my second most watched team for this season. I'm pretty sure I'm going to watch a ton of Celtics games, so I can't wait to see how that pops out. But as a content creator, I want you to let the people know about some things you got going on. I'll be sure to put all your stuff in the description and comments below.
Yeah. So YouTube, obviously. I'm not really sure about what else I'm going to be doing this year. I'm probably going to be streaming a lot more on Twitch, just, gaming and things like that. Playback, I'm going to be trying to do more of the watch parties and things like that. Playback.tv. So yeah, can't really think of anything else right now, but I'll also follow the Twitter on there a lot.
Bet. Go follow the Twitter and go follow the Playback. I forgot to say this earlier in the beginning of the podcast as well, but make sure to tap into this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and also on the YouTube. I also will be streaming games on Playback. I'm going to try to stream at least one game of every NBA team daily. Every Warriors game we're for sure going to be watching on Playback, so tap in there. I'm aiming to be a lot more consistent for this upcoming season. But basketball is tonight, people. Me and Denver didn't have time to really go through the Suns prediction game. We might get ran out the gym, or we might run them out the gym. I don't know, but have a good one. We'll catch you guys. Peace out. Enjoy NBA basketball. Peace, people.